Hello everyone, a very good morning and welcome to the session on the daily news analysis presented by me, and we are here on the Unacademy platform. And yes, before we start the session of the day guys, and yesterday it was 17th of October, that is basically a Sunday yesterday. So we'll be taking up the news that is there in yesterday's as well as today's newspaper that is extremely relevant for the UPSC examination perspective. Okay, so we'll start the discussion now, and before we start, right, as you all knew that there are a lot of toppers who have secured the ranks through the Unacademy, and yes, there are a lot of people who have actually achieved their dreams, and yes, we are here to support you all the time by providing you the necessary support and guidance from the educators, the test series, providing you the best quality material, doubts clearing sessions, as well as the answer writing practice, and most importantly linking all these things to the current happenings. So that is something which you have. And yeah, so most important is this, Unacademy has brought an offer where you would be getting a discount of 35%. That is, if you are taking the subscription, you will be getting a 25% discount if you're taking with optional, and 10% additionally you will be getting using the referral code Ajay IAS 10. This is a kind of discount. This is rarely that you would get on 35% of discount on Unacademy. And yes, for 3 months combo also we have got another offer that is 10% you will be getting, and other 10% using the the referral code. Yep. So optionals would be started by top educators on Unacademy platform starting from 21st of October, and the new batches would also be started from 21, 22 as well as 2023 also. Yep, a very good morning. And yes, these are the batch courses taken up by the various educators, and I'll be also part of very important batches here too, right? So before we go any further in this particular case, right, we are already done with the combat yesterday, and the next combat would also be updated very soon, right? You can join the combat using the code IAS10, Ajay IAS10, right? So let's going further today, right? With respect to the discussion guys, the first topic is this, what is happening with Israel is a very interesting thing that we know, right? When you are talking about the matter of Israel, the very simple thing that we also have to identify here is that in Israel, after the elections have happened, the prime minister has been changed, as you know very well, right? Earlier it was Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, and he was replaced with another government, and this government hasn't got a clear majority. I mean, like, this particular single party hasn't got a clear majority, so they formed a coalition government. Okay, and this government has been formed around 4 months ago, and we know what is the kind of relationship that we have with the top Israel. When it comes to this particular case, when it was Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu was the prime minister, prime minister of India has made his maiden visit by any Indian prime minister to Israel, and we had a great scope because Israel is a country which is developing in the defense sector a lot, and in multiple other sectors too. So we have been trying our best to develop a kind of collaboration between this India and Israel in particular. So as a result, the external affairs minister, now the external affairs minister of India have left to a 5-day visit to Israel. This is the first high level engagement that we are making with the new government that has been formed, and this is also the first visit of the Minister of External Affairs as a Minister of External Affairs, as in he has never visited, it is the first visit to the country as a minister. This is something which is a very, very, very important thing. So as part of it, the Minister of External Affairs of India would be having a lot of discussions with the Foreign Minister of Israel. The current Foreign Minister of Israel would become the Prime Minister in 2023 according to a government agreement that they have. So yes, he will be also having a discussion with the Foreign Minister of Israel, who will become the Prime Minister in 2023, right? Then he will also be meeting the President of Israel, the Prime Minister of Israel, and the Speaker of Israel, many more people too. And one thing that has been mentioned is that the Israeli ambassador designate to India has announced that very clearly this particular visit is going to be very, very, very intensive, because right now India and Israel share a very, very, very interesting partnership. And they say that after the deal that has been signed, after the visit of Indian Prime Minister to Israel has happened in 2017, this has taken it to the greater heights. For example, right now both the countries are focusing on expanding the knowledge based partnership, where we are trying to focus on collaborating in the domain of research, We are promoting the Make in India initiative. This is definitely going to be a very important thing, and we know that there are many Indian origin soldiers. Many Indian soldiers have participated in the World War, and after that we also have, Israel has built a kind of a, a memorial that is at a place called Haifa to pay, at this particular place, the Indian minister would also go and pay the tributes to the Indian soldiers too, who have lost their lives during the First World War. And they will have meetings with the Indian origin Jewish community. The Indologists are those people who study India, right? The Indian students who are pursuing their education in Israeli universities, they would have meetings with all these things, all these kind of people also. That's going to be another interesting thing. Now, this visit also comes at a time when the government is facing the allegations, regarding the Pegasus. Now, Pegasus is a virus or a kind of spyware which has come from a company called NSO Group, which is based in Israel. So, this is something which is going to be an important thing. And there are some people who say, like the company of NSO says that we will not sell our spyware to someone else, we will be selling the software only to the government agencies. So, and only those particular agencies which have been cleared by the Israeli government will be getting it. So, but however, Indian government has stated no, that we have not done it. But many people have been accusing the government of India, especially the Prime Minister of India in particular, stating that it's you who have done this particular thing. But there has been allegations that have been made. They are not yet proven. So we just have to say that there are allegations only. So this is about the kind of visit, because it's going to be a high level visit that we're taking up, where the Indian minister himself is going, is a very, very, very positive development with respect to the relationship between both India and Israel. Now, moving on to the next one, Army Air Defense. So there is a notion among many people where people think that, I'm sorry. There is a notion among the people where people think that the air defense is something that is taken up only by Air Force, but it is wrong, isn't it? It is not something that is taken up only by the Air Force. In fact, we try to involve, the Army also do look into this. Even the Navy has its own capabilities to look into this. So it would be absolutely wrong if someone says air defense is only the responsibility of Air Force. But when you look at the other side of the coin, right, Army is going to face such kind of trouble generally, because the kind of threats that are emanating from Pakistan and some other nations through the aerial route, Army thought we also need some support, we also need to do something here. So we have been trying our best to promote the air defense. So whenever you talk about the air defense in particular, there is something that we talk about kinds of air defense systems. We have short range, we have medium range, we also have a long range, isn't it? So but there has been government has been trying its best to actually do the modernization things and all. So the Army Air Defense is now looking at the progress in the next few months with respect to the deals that they are going to sign and with respect to the trials too. So as part of it, they would also include more Akash surface to air missile systems, number one. And this is the one which we know, it's a medium range surface to air missile. And there's another one called Igla-S, very short range air defense systems from Russia. These are going to be the part of this thing. Okay. Now, the army has already taken up, some Igla systems have already been allowed, from Russia under the emergency procurement, where it has already been cleared too. And 2 Akash regiments have already been in service, and they're expecting 2 more. It's just that this particular topic is going to be about how army is trying to expand its air defense systems in particular. So apart from that, the army variant of the medium range surface to air missile, which is developed by the DRDO and Israeli Aerospace Industries, both of these have already been looking into this particular matter about, especially about the Akash missile, which is generally the indigenous development too. Now, the air defense generally is taken up in three levels. One is gun or missile system, that is for a very short range. Then you have a medium range, and then you have a high range. And within this particular air defense, there are two types of gun systems also we take. One is called AD gun missile system, other one is AD self-propelled guns. For example, if you know, the IGLA S system is also something like which you also have, which are the portable weapons, also portable missiles, as in you will just put them on the shoulder and shoot. You know, that sort of technology things have also been there. So right now the army is looking its best to further enhance this particular area, and you know, be it in the medium segment, be it in the high range area, they are trying to procure more of these particular things. Right, there has been a delay in this particular case, but they are trying its best to promote more of this air defense systems to be taken up. That is something which we have. Okay, so earlier in the past we have discussed that Sri Lanka is a country which has imposed a kind of emergency in the nation, especially which we called it as the economic emergency. Right, in economic emergency we could say that they have imposed. And there are a variety of reasons about why they have done it. Number one, that we say, one of the reasons why Sri Lanka must have done it is because of, what do you call it as, because of the shortage of the forex reserves, number one. Okay. Number two, there has been a huge amount of imports, but shortage of the forex. Now what happens when the imports are too much and there is a shortage of forex? What happens? They end up having this kind of problem where, like, you know, they have to buy more dollars and give it. So which means the Sri Lankan currency value would come down, so which can again lead to inflation also. Right? So all these could be the possible facts for this. And yes, other important reason, yes, tourism has been reduced tremendously because of this. But some time ago, one of the reasons they also talk is, number 5 is about agriculture. And what is agriculture in this? Why is that a problem? So Sri Lanka has a habit earlier to import fertilizers. But suddenly, the Sri Lankan government has taken a decision stating that we don't want to import them. Rather, they said we will completely become an organic agriculture. This is something which Sri Lanka has taken a decision. Suddenly, if you say bring such kind of thing, stating that we are going to become totally organic, you know, this is going to affect the people, especially in the long term, isn't it? I mean to say, the people would be affected, especially the farmers are going to be the worst affected people with this kind of decisions that are being taken. So we need to do something in this particular matter. So the government has earlier went on to this, but many people have criticized this move of the government too. For example, the president of Sri Lanka has appointed now a task force on green agriculture, where on one side the farmers of Sri Lanka are protesting the government's decision to state that we will have to use only organic fertilizers, so which has been started from May. You know, that is opposed by many people, but on the other side the president has appointed a task force to look into the green agriculture. And this particular task force will look into the requirement of fertilizers, number one, and they want to focus on how to improve the quality of organic fertilizers. And this particular panel has 14 members. All of these are mostly private members, and there is no farmers organization which was made a part of it. And it's been almost 5 months. Government has banned all the fertilizers, and agriculture experts have actually called this move as ill-advised and unscientific. They call this as ill-advised and unscientific, where the farmers who are especially of paddy, they're expecting a short of the output in 25%, and while the tea is expecting a short of output in 40 to 60%. You know, this is something which is a very, very, very critical thing. As I already told you, that the current administration of Sri Lanka is trying to justify the decision by using the poll pledge which has been made by the president in 2019, that they would like to bring down the import bill of the country. Because right now the COVID-19 pandemic, everything is going on. So Sri Lanka used to spend an amount of $300 to $400 million on fertilizer imports only. So this kind of thing could change their thought, but it is now going to have a very huge problem this year. And the danger is with the heavy private sector presence, now they would promote anything, because for the private sector what they need is a profit. So rather than making the farmers understand, they have involved most of the private people. This could become a problematic thing, and the government's fertilizer ban could again can be considered as a blunder, because the food production will be affected now. So what happens when the food production is affected? Absolutely. Now again, most of the people would be suffering. No food items again lead to inflation. That's a common thing. And when you talk about organic fertilizers, now whether the organic fertilizers are produced locally or they are imported, they would be definitely checked. For example, earlier Sri Lanka has stopped a 96,000 ton shipment of fertilizers from Chinese company, stating that the quality is poor. So the Chinese embassy stated that the decision taken by the Sri Lankan authorities have done on a hasty conclusion, and that would be questionable too. But Sri Lanka is trying its best, to import the liquid nitrogen from China and India in this particular time, but we just have to wait and see, what would be the output of it. But this is one of the most important reason about it. Clear? Understood? Now, so as we have already seen in the earlier sessions, that if as we keep talking about the neighbors of India, one of the neighbors that we obviously focus is on Bhutan. When you talk about Bhutan so much, when you talk and promote about Bhutan so much, and this is one such kind of neighbor whom we could rely on, right? This cannot be forever again. That's other important side we also have to focus on, isn't it? So sometimes what would happen is, right, we need to be cautious about which country is doing what, because everyone is a democratic, everyone is sovereign, everyone has, their own government. So very recently, we have seen some news in the few days ago that China and Bhutan has reached out to an agreement to solve the border issue. Now, Chinese media try to show this as a breakthrough. So they have come across this particular roadmap with a 3-step roadmap, and they say that this would further, break the deadlock that has been going on, between these countries. They say this is the point. For example, Bhutan and China have signed an agreement where they say that this is going to provide, I quote, it will make a meaningful contribution to speeding up the negotiation on demarcation and promoting the process of establishing the diplomatic ties between both the nations. Till now, both China and Bhutan do not have any kind of diplomatic presence, diplomatic ties. So they say that if we can address this particular deal, our border dispute could be settled, and we can also set up, a diplomatic ties also. And now the Bhutan foreign minister also stated, the Bhutan will work with China to implement the MOU so that we could push forward the negotiation on demarcation, and we could strengthen the bilateral relations of this too. But neither China nor Bhutan have released what is the 3-step roadmap. But when it comes to this is a very long dispute actually. So Chinese media have called this as a greatest breakthrough in the border talks between the countries of Bhutan and China, because this has been in a discussion since 1984. So they have been discussing since 1984, and till now 20 rounds of discussion have happened. And right now, this is a very different story. They're expecting some great things too. But there are some experts who are stating, if this is settled up, if everything is sorted out between China and Bhutan, India will have less chances to make excuses, because they accuse India obviously of some kind of boundary disputes and all, saying that India is the one which is responsible for it. But yeah, the experts are saying another way, right? Doklam standoff is some of the very biggest issue between the countries of China, Bhutan and India. So at that time, China and Bhutan did not have a meeting for the border talks for a very long time after this too. But what happened here is that India has objected to construction of a road, but they left it. But still, right now, if you talk about, China has got a great control over the other parts of this particular area. For example, earlier, China has included the Sangteng Wildlife Sanctuary, stating that it belongs to China. But right now, after this was done, it is a tactic moved by China to bring this particular country of Bhutan into negotiating table. And right now, this is something which is going on, and there are not much details have been given, but yeah, we just have to wait and see, what would be the concept here. So I'll not go into all these things. In simple terms, I'll tell you, generally, any person who is building up a chemical is equal to an architect. And in fact, the job that is done by them is much more complex. So when you talk about certain kind of things like, zeolite, which has been used in the oxygen concentrators, they have been of some great use, especially during the COVID-19 time, isn't it? So now today our discussion is going to be about that only. So I'll not talk about all these things, I don't think that's needed here. But generally, right, this kind of, yeah, exactly, that's right, Rajshekharan, when it was there in the discussion, yeah, that's true. So whenever you talk about something like zeolites have a molecular seals, that is like a small hole sort of things. So zeolites are highly porous. It has a 3D mesh of silica and alumina. So generally, in nature, you can find zeolites. When the lava is meeting with the water, then you would see the result is a zeolite. But synthetic zeolites have also been done. For example, one thing that has been used is for the purification of oxygen. So whenever you talk about these zeolites, so generally these have got such kind of a small molecular seal. When the air is passing through it, they are separating oxygen and others, and they are trying to provide and ensure that more oxygen is actually provided to the patient. So that's the reason why it was used in oxygen concentrators, we could say. Right? So just give me 1 minute. So we have last 3 topics. Okay, we have last 3 topics. So India and US have been performing a lot of exercises. With the 17th edition of India-US bilateral exercise called Yudh Abhyas. Exactly, right. So with respect to the 17th edition of bilateral exercise between India and US, which we call it as Yudh Abhyas, has been started at US, where both the sides definitely, whenever it comes to this exercises, the kind of collaboration that both would be having here is that they try their best to develop a kind of relationship between them. But now, when you talk about India and US, we have been involved in different kind of exercises which are beyond the bilateral. But this is the only exercise which is in a bilateral format right now. Okay, right. So when it comes to Malabar, as we know very well, that Malabar initially was started as a bilateral exercise between India and US. Later on, Japan has joined them, which has made it as a trilateral exercise in 2015. And after that, we could see, right, we have included Australia in 2020, which has led it to, this kind of situation, which has led to, kind of a quadrilateral one in the year 2020. But yeah, similarly, when you talk about COPE India, right, COPE India is another exercise that has been started. It's Air Force exercise basically. But Japan has joined them, so it has become a trilateral exercise too. Now, at any point, is this when you're trying to develop the relationship between these nations, one primary thing that we also have to focus is that we have to focus on promoting the understanding among them, cooperation and interoperability. So exercise Yudh Abhyas is one of the largest military training exercise and defense cooperation between both the sides of India and United States of America, where 300 soldiers belonging to the 1st Squadron of 40th Cavalry Regiment and 350 soldiers from the side of India are participating in it. It's about a 14-day training schedule that would be there. They will do the joint operations and all, and many people are trying to come here. As I told you that COPE exercise, other than Malabar, Japan has also sent observers for the first time during the COPE India exercise in 2018. So US has proposed a trilateral one. So Japan was included as observer, and later on it has been made into a trilateral one. So right now only Yudh Abhyas is the one which is the bilateral exercise we do have. Okay. So next one, I'm sure you all must have heard about Global Hunger Index. In the last class, I think we had a discussion on it. Talking about the Global Hunger Index, they stated that India is performing worst. India's rank has come down. India is just above, there are 116 countries which have been ranked, and India's rank is 101. So definitely government is not ready to accept this kind of rankings, so which was given by such kind of organizations too. And now the government states that the value of a key indicator that is used in the Global Hunger Index is inflated. That is, it is increased and shown in a very bad way. Because government says that only 3.9% of Anganwadi children are undernourished. The real-time data of the beneficiaries who are registered on Anganwadi platform includes 7.79 crore children between 6 months to 6 years. And they say it's only, it is only 3.9% of the children who are affected. So they have taken the poorest strata of the society. They've taken the lower levels of undernourishment and all. As we've already seen, that the global hunger index takes into consideration 4 different kind of indicators, that is undernourishment, child wasting, child stunting, and under 5 mortality rate. So we already had a discussion on this particular case in the last class. But yeah, what has been done by these people is not yet accepted by the country of India. So we are just trying to look into this particular case. Okay. And then we have one last topic of the day, and that would be the end of the discussion today. So hypersonic missiles are the trends that are going on. Right? Hypersonic missiles are a kind of trend that's going on. And recently a report has been done by a London-based organization called Financial Times. So they've stated different kind of sources and told very clearly that China is the one which has tested the hypersonic glide vehicle test, which means it is something which is going to be 5 times more than the speed of sound, or it is more than that also. So they stated that 5 people have been taken from this particular test, and the test has been taken up, and this was not successful, though it has missed the target by almost 24 miles. Almost 24 miles is the difference that they have seen. But the technology is something which has been taken up as surprise by the US, because US has undermined the authority, undermined this technological ability of China. So this shows it's a kind of different perspective, right? So it was used as a Long March rocket, has been used for the space program, and they say that this could be a big challenge for the US military because they are focused on northern polar route. So the report says very clearly that US, Russia and China all are developing them, including the glide vehicles, which would be which are launched into a space on a rocket, but orbit under their own momentum. They orbit the earth under their own momentum and again hit the target. But India also has tested the hypersonic test demonstrator vehicle some time ago. So the exact details are not very well known, but it's definitely one particular technology that is taken up to. And this is definitely something to be watched by the world as well as by India, considering what is the growth of them. India is also trying its best to develop their own hypersonic demonstrator technology vehicles. But yeah, we also have a test of ASAT, so we are capable of doing that too. So we just have to wait and see what would happen in this particular case. So that is all about the topics we have for the discussion today. Okay, so we'll be ending the discussion here, and we'll be continuing, we'll be coming up tomorrow again with the similar kind of discussion of 19th of October 2021. Okay, so that is all for the day, and use the code Ajay IAS10 to join the Unacademy, where you'll be getting a 35% of discount, at least according to a current running offer. So that's all for the day. Thank you. Have a great day, and Jai Hind everyone.